What? What?
I got so attached to him. I did not expect this. No. Oh my god.
And we are still saying et tu brute? We should say et tu Murat. Hello guys.
Hi everyone.
I am Valdemar.
And I'm Veronica.
And we are about to finish the Napoleon series.
Uh-huh.
Right now we have 2 episodes. We're going to record them in a row. The last one is a very short one, so we're not going to wait. So you don't have to worry that you will have to wait so long for the end of the series. It's happening right now. It's
going. And today we're watching the Battle for France, which a lot of you told us in the comments that it's your favorite episode, and that this is the one that you always want people to see, people react to. So here we are to react to it, and I am so pumped.
I wonder what exactly is this Battle of France, because I think I know what's going to happen. I know how the things turned out. And if I remember correctly, there was not that much of a fighting. But maybe I'm thinking about something else. Maybe the title is misleading and I'm thinking of something else.
Maybe it's not like a single battle, but it's a battle for France, like battling for France. His final effort.
I cannot tell you because I don't want to spoil anything.
Right.
But I can recommend you a book if you are interested. I read it last year, I think. The Count of Monte Cristo. You might know it. But it happens, it starts around this period. And like main character is kind of involved in the events that are leading to what is happening right now. Again, I cannot tell you because I don't want to spoil it to you. And I really don't know what's going to happen at the beginning, because something that I thought is going to happen with Napoleon regarding a certain island, I thought is going to happen in the last video.
Okay. Well, you already refreshed my memory a little bit. Because he was sent to the island, then he came back, then he was sent to another island, right?
I was trying not to spoil it to you.
You didn't spoil it to me.
God
I knew it. I don't live under a rock. I know a little bit of history. So, yeah. Okay. Is that what you were trying to spell out in the last video?
Yeah.
Because no one got it. I do know that no one got it. Like people were saying in the comments, like, can someone crack what he's saying? And people didn't.
Yeah, it was ELBA.
Yeah, I have no idea what you did. And also, now you not only mumble, you also cannot trace letters in the air. So there's no method of communication left for you.
I will learn the Morse alphabet and I will blink it.
And then you're gonna blink in a mumbly way. You're gonna blink like. I also mumble, so don't worry. Okay. I don't know what this was, but it's me being excited.
Let's go.
Okay. Peace. It's easy enough to say the word. Am I to give up all that I possess in Germany? Yes, perhaps. If you would stop being so greedy.
Yeah,
in October 1813, Napoleon had suffered his heaviest ever defeat at Leipzig, the Battle of the Nations.
Yeah, it was an unforgettable video.
Surviving French forces, exhausted, sick and demoralized, retreated to the River Rhine and prepared to defend France from invasion. But in November, the armies of the Sixth Coalition paused their advance, and Austrian Foreign Minister Metternich offered peace terms.
That's nice.
The Frankfurt proposals would allow Napoleon to keep his throne if France returned to her so-called natural frontiers.
He's not going to agree to that.
It was the best offer Napoleon was likely to get, now that his back was to the wall, and all Europe's great powers were united against him. Even so, he did not accept the terms. He merely agreed to reopen negotiations. To the Allies, and many in France itself, it proved that Napoleon would not listen to reason.
Yeah, that's a good point, because it's really pretty sweet deal, considering the circumstances. And, I know that it's not a very nice thing to do, but I guess you can use the time to reorganize your army and then try something else in the future.
But it's exactly what I just thought. Like, why would they trust him not to do that in the future? So I think it was a really good deal, and it was a really, like, a show of trust as well, that they really wanted to rebuild the relationship, because you would not let someone have that opportunity.
You can write in this kind of peace treaties, you can write like certain
you have to
rules.
limit your army or something.
Like you cannot mobilize your army anymore. Your army must be at the maximum like 300,000 people, something like that,
Yeah.
And then if you will reorganize your army, if you will mobilize soldiers, then they can, force you to do stuff. Like it was similar with the Germany after the First World War, but the fault of Europe was that they did not react. They saw what was happening, and instead of, attacking Germany when it was the time for that, they kind of tried to calm things down. So I really don't understand why Napoleon did not agree for that. It was really a good opportunity, even if not to mobilize, then just to keep his throne. You still have a pretty nice country.
I wonder if he reflected on it later, that maybe he should have accepted or not. Maybe we'll find out.
The war went on, and by January 1814, Napoleon's situation looked even worse. Many of his besieged garrisons in the east were starved into surrender.
That was in the last video too, right?
Marshal Davout, with 34,000 men in Hamburg, was now besieged. Denmark, one of France's last allies, was invaded by Bernadotte's Swedish army and made to join the coalition. French troops evacuated the Netherlands, which reasserted its independence after nearly 20 years of French control. In Italy, Eugene's army faced a new enemy, Joachim Murat, King of Naples, now marching north with 30,000 men to honour his new alliance with the 6th Coalition.
What?
I got so attached to him. I did not expect this. No. Oh my god.
And we are still saying it's too brute. We should say it's too Murat. Oh, you know what? Like, if I was now I know why he didn't accept the peace treaty.
Right? And also, why was he called Flamboyant Murat and not this Rat Murat or something? How much more flamboyant was he than he was?
It's already in his name. Yeah, that was his destiny. It's Murat. How could he
We're onto something.
How he could trust a guy that is called Rat?
We're onto something here. No, I've to be honest,
that's because they said that in one of the previous videos that he was trying to learn English, but he didn't have a gift to that. If he learned English,
if only he learned English,
he would know that Murat is not a guy you should trust.
But I feel so betrayed. Oh my god, what the? I'm so glad this wasn't spoiled for us, but it was my favorite marshal. My heart went out to him, for no reason in particular, other than that they kept calling him flamboyant, which was very funny. But I got attached to him.
Goddamn traitor.
In Paris, Napoleon responded to the crisis with a series of extreme measures. Property taxes doubled, state salaries and pensions suspended, 300,000 new conscripts called up.
300,000
from a country already exhausted by 20 years of war.
Maybe they lowered the age or something.
I think so.
He ordered the release of Pope Pius, under French house arrest for the last 5 years, to try to shore up his support in Italy.
Too little, too late.
He even agreed to release Fernando, the Bourbon King of Spain, to take up his throne in exchange for peace between France and Spain. A condition that Fernando was in no position to honour.
Yeah, I think so.
Seems so chaotic.
But these concessions were too little, far too late. In January, 2 coalition armies crossed the Rhine into France. Blücher's army of Silesia and Schwarzenberg's army of Bohemia. Outnumbered French forces in their path could only fall back. On the 25th of January, Napoleon said farewell to his wife and son at the Tuileries Palace before leaving for the front.
So cute.
he would never see either of them again.
Oh.
With just 70,000 men, he faced odds of 4-1. Most of his troops were raw conscripts, some without uniforms, many just learning how to hold a musket.
What a difference, how much he fell. Remember with the comparison with the first video when he had people like the army like that was not well trained, and then he changed the training, he gained their trust, and then he had the grand army and he was so high up, and now he's back to just having anyone try to like conscripting anyone.
Yeah, but now you can really see that he really became a villain in this story, because if you are a dictator of a country, king or whatever, and it's so important for you to keep the power that you're conscripting, teens basically.
He basically
and they don't even have a means to fight. So it's not really a war, because it's going to be bloodbath for you.
No, it's just absolutely frantic, and it looks like he just lost the grip on reality, and he's just throwing everything. He's treating the country like it belongs to him, and like it's his to sacrifice for I don't know what. And imagine the life for the French people. Like, imagine you have all of your sons are now conscripted, because probably, like we say, probably the age went down. Taxes are doubled.
To the sky.
Yeah, and there's famine. There's not even food to buy, and you don't have money anyway.
Yeah, and you don't gain anything basically from
this
war.
What do you gain from this war, exactly? There's nothing for you to look forward to.
Citizen.
Yeah, there's nothing
like,
to...
Oh yeah, nice, France is bigger on the map, but what do you gain from that?
And you're never gonna be able to afford to see that part of France.
Yeah, he really became a villain, and it's no wonder that whole Europe decided to fight against him.
Yeah.
Maybe that's also part of the reason why people like Bernadotte and Murat
rebelled against him.
Maybe, I don't know. I guess it's mostly because, they were opportunists. But maybe there was more to that. Maybe we will learn more about this in the Napoleon Marshals.
Indeed. From what Murat seems to have done, it really seemed like it was just personal for him, for personal gain. But perhaps he wanted to fight him as well. But if he wanted to, he could have, I don't know, assassinated him or something. There were probably better ways to do it.
But for the first time in years, Napoleon's army was so small that he'd be able to exercise direct command over all its movements. The result would be one of the most audacious and brilliant campaigns in history.
What?
So he still got it. I guess he can't win on this part because he just doesn't have the
Can you imagine if he would won the war and the only reason why he was not winning was because he was not in command?
The battle for France would be fought east of Paris, mostly across Champagne, a flat region divided by the rivers Marne and Seine and their tributaries. In late January, fields were dusted with snow and roads quickly turned to mud. Napoleon learned that the coalition armies were widely scattered, with part of Blücher's army near Napoleon's old college at Brienne. The emperor advanced rapidly, hoping to trap and destroy part of Blücher's army. But after a hard day's fighting that cost both sides 3,000 casualties, Blücher was able to retreat towards Schwarzenberg's army. That evening, Napoleon was nearly skewered by a charging Cossack, saved only by General Gorgo's good shooting.
That's the closest he came to being heard, right?
I think so.
As Napoleon tried to work out the enemy's movements, Blücher, heavily reinforced by Schwarzenberg, made a surprise attack at La Rothière. Allied troops advanced through swirling snow to assault the village, defiantly held by young French conscripts. One was so inexperienced that Marshal Marmont had to personally show him how to load his musket during the battle.
Poor Jesus.
By late afternoon, Wreder's Bavarian corps was falling on Napoleon's flank. Heavily outnumbered, Napoleon had no option but to retreat, having lost 5,000 casualties and 73 guns abandoned in the thick mud.
How will
the Allies' frontal attacks meant their losses were greater, but by combining their armies, they defeated Napoleon on French soil for the first time.
I have no idea how this will turn around.
Believing Napoleon would now retreat towards Paris, the Allies decided to advance along two routes to ease pressure on the roads. Blücher would take a northern route along the Marne. Schwarzenberg would follow the Seine. But dividing their armies again would play right into Napoleon's hands.
Okay. That's the guy that was, kicking us in Spain.
Mm-hmm.
Wellesley was his name?
Yes, something like that.
After 2 days to reorganize, Napoleon continued his retreat to Nogent, where he learned that the Allies had split their armies. Not only that, they were advancing at different speeds. The aggressive Blücher racing ahead, while the more cautious Schwarzenberg lagged behind. Leaving Oudinot and Victor to guard the Seine bridges and delay Schwarzenberg, Napoleon raced north through mud and rain with 30,000 men.
30,000.
The army of Silesia was strung out on the march, oblivious to the danger it was in. First, Napoleon fell on General Osufiev's Russian 9th Corps at Chaumont, destroying it, taking its commander and 2,000 men prisoner. The next morning, he marched on General Osten-Sacken's force near Montmiral. This was a much larger force, with 2 infantry and 1 cavalry corps, and was expecting support from Yorck's Prussian 1st Corps. But the Prussians were late, and Sacken's troops could not withstand the French onslaught. At this desperate hour, the Emperor's elite Old Guard were no longer held back, but were often thrown into the thick of the fighting. By the end of the day, Napoleon had inflicted another 3,500 casualties, twice his own losses, and the Allies were in rapid retreat.
Yeah, but he has so little people that even if he inflicts twice the casualties,
he cannot keep
enough.
doing it.
Yeah.
But I wonder if the Allies, if they were a bit shocked, because if they expected him to just keep losing at that point.
He only has 70,000 people, and he went here on the north with just 30,000.
Yeah, I think they forgot they were not supposed to fight him personally, and now there's no way around it.
But now there is no one else. Yeah. Like, there are no other marshals to fight, so you can...
And they they throw an arrow, like, oh my god, what are we supposed to do now?
But I would really like to see in this episode, I hope they will show close-up on some of the battles. Because what exactly is he doing? He has only young conscripts who barely know how to load a musket. So
for now, I think he just had a really big advantage in numbers, because the first part that they said he crushed, I think it was 3,000, and he has 30,000 before. So he's just taking them one by one. But I would like to see the details too.
Napoleon had ordered Marshal MacDonald to cut off the enemy's escape by seizing the Marne Bridge at Château Thierry. But Yorck's Prussians got there first. The next day, Napoleon could only batter their rear guard as the enemy fled across the Marne, destroying the bridge behind them. Sending Marshal Mortier to rebuild the bridge and continue the pursuit, Napoleon doubled back to rejoin Marmont, who had been left to keep watch on Blücher. Napoleon attacked at Vauchamp, using General Grouchy's cavalry to outflank Blücher's army, which was soon in headlong retreat. A merciless French pursuit inflicted 6,000 Prussian and Russian casualties. Napoleon lost just 600 men. Napoleon had taken on an enemy...
So if he was able to clone himself at some point and just be every single marshal, he never would have lost the war.
Maybe that's why he was appointing his brothers. And
he was hoping there's at least one, a spark of his genes, right? And maybe that's why they were successful. Honestly, there's I'm laughing, but there's something wrong with this. It's insane. How good do you have to be? And why does it matter so much if you orchestrate the whole thing? You're always, the main guy. Why does it matter so much that you're personally there? I know you can make the split-second decisions and you motivate the troops, but why is it such a big difference? And is he that good, or are the other people idiots?
But I think rather the former, because you have leaders from all over Europe.
Yeah, and
it's not like you are fighting just against Austrians and you're going to be like, oh, Austrians cannot fight.
I wonder what his IQ would have been. I wonder what his IQ would have been.
Oh, that's interesting.
And like, I also wonder, that's why I suppose when we finish this series, I want to read some of his journals. But I wonder, was he so intelligent in other areas of life as well? Or was it restricted to like military strategy and politics? Or was he interested in art?
I don't know if he was that good.
Did he have a lot to say about philosophy?
I don't know
something?
if he was that good at politics. I think it's mostly military. Because you don't see him being a very good politician.
I guess.
He basically made entire Europe his enemy.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
With no real allies.
Maybe you're right. Maybe that suggests he was...
Forcing other countries to be his ally, but no one is really...
But then I guess, like, if he's so good at strategy, was he good at, I don't know, chess or math or something? Do we know that? I'm curious.
I don't know. I think he could be good at chess.
The army almost twice his size, and beaten it 4 times in just 6 days. Blücher had lost an estimated 15,000 casualties in battle, and another 15,000 in smaller engagements, as stragglers or deserters. For now, the army of Silesia had been scattered and neutralized. But in the south, Marshals Victor and Oudinot had not been able to prevent Schwarzenberg's army of Bohemia from crossing the Seine in 3 places. Austrian troops were now just 40 miles from Paris.
Yeah, if only he could be there as well, then this would be
already
over.
Leaving Mortier and Marmont to keep watch on Blücher, Napoleon raced south. Schwarzenberg, alarmed by news of Blücher's defeat and of Napoleon's approach, immediately ordered a retreat. It was too late for Wittgenstein's advance guard, routed at Mormain with 2,000 casualties. Napoleon sent Victor's Second Corps to seize the bridge at Montereau, but was so infuriated by its slow progress that he sacked Victor and gave his corps to General Gérard. The next day, at the Battle of Montereau, the French drove the Allied Württemberg Corps back across the river, with 30% losses.
Of which side?
According to some accounts, the Emperor cited the French cannon himself, as he had at Lodi 18 years before. Napoleon had the Allies on the run. But how long could it last?
You know, like, it's not funny because there's a lot of people dying and it's a horrible situation, but it's like you said, it's so ridiculous. Like, this looks like this is like a cartoon fight.
Yeah, you know
because he's leaving people there, like, be like, okay, sit here, I'm going there to do this thing, and then they are not able to do what he asked them to do, and he's like, okay, now you wait here, and he races back to do it, and he does it. It's just ridiculous.
It's like this game, you know, that was in Squid Game, you know, like you have this someone.
Yes.
Not watching, and when they don't watch, you approach.
Yeah.
Then he turns back.
I forgot what this game is called. I forgot what it's called.
I don't know.
Yeah. France cannot, but Napoleon can.
Even as fighting continued, negotiations between France and the coalition reopened at Châtillon-sur-Seine on the 5th of February. The Allied terms were now more severe. A return to France's frontiers of 1791, which meant the additional loss of Belgium, a humiliation that Napoleon refused to accept.
That is good.
Instead, he tried to revive the Frankfurt proposals, hoping to play for time and to split the coalition, whose war aims varied from Britain's hard line to Austria's more ambiguous position. But this hope was thwarted by British Foreign Secretary Lord Castlereagh. On the 1st of March, he persuaded the Allies to sign the Treaty of Chaumont. In it, Russia, Prussia, Austria and Great Britain agreed to keep 150,000 troops in the field and not to negotiate separately with France, while Britain added the sweetener of a £5 million subsidy to be shared among the Allies.
Great Britain
The
is like,
treaties-
yeah.
But Great Britain, the whole of the last 15 years, they have so much money. When was it the last time that they had so much money they were giving out?
I don't know, all the time.
Yeah, but there was this campaign that they gave out so much money, and like alcohol and something else, and they were like, oh yeah, here, and they're just giving money to everyone. Why do they have all this money?
Because they are the biggest empire
colonies,
in the world.
I guess. But still.
Not directly
But
occupied.
but people always say, you don't get rich by spending your money. You have to keep it. If you keep spending it, like, what happens? It's not endless.
Secret articles specified common war aims, including the future independence of the German states, Switzerland and Italy, while Spain was to be returned to the Bourbons and Holland to the House of Orange.
House of Orange.
The four powers even agreed that once they'd defeated Napoleon, they'd form a 20-year defensive alliance to maintain peace in Europe, a sign of their newfound commitment to each other.
So it like
A
small
split
NATO.
in the coalition had been Napoleon's last best hope for a favourable peace. That was gone. And news from across the country was bleak. French cities were surrendering to the Allies without a fight. Nancy, Dijon and Macon had all fallen. In the south, Wellington defeated Marshal Soult at Orthez, forcing him to fall back on Toulouse. 2 weeks later, as British troops approached the city of Bordeaux, it declared loyalty to France's Bourbon kings. The mayor himself rode out to greet the British, bearing a white cockade, the sign of Bourbon allegiance. Napoleon's hope for a nation in arms to resist the Allies had not materialized. Allied troops, particularly Cossacks, often robbed French civilians and committed some atrocities. French peasants took revenge.
Why it's always Russians?
It's not only Russians. At least in this campaign, usually it is only Russians, but in this campaign it is not only Russians. This is the exception that proves the rule.
Civilians and committed some atrocities. French peasants took revenge when they could, but there was no guerrilla war to mirror what French troops had encountered in Spain or Russia. The chief desire among ordinary French people was for peace, at almost any price.
Of course. Yeah.
Any talk of Napoleon's defeat in late February was premature. The French Emperor was driving Schwarzenberg's army of Bohemia before him, even though it was twice his size. But Schwarzenberg scrambled to safety behind the River Aube. Napoleon knew he had to land another decisive blow soon, so turned his attention back to Blücher.
No, he's going to clap him.
After an aborted attempt to join forces with Schwarzenberg, Blücher had decided to resume his advance on Paris, gathering reinforcements en route, and with only Marmont and Mortier's weak corps to oppose him. Leaving Marshal MacDonald in command in the south, Napoleon set off to intercept Blücher, covering 60 miles in 3 days along terrible roads choked with mud. At Napoleon's approach, Blücher retreated across the Marne, burning the bridges behind him.
If there were no rivers,
24
no one
hours
would have came
later,
from
they'd been rebuilt by French engineers, and Napoleon was poised to crush Blücher against the Aisne River, because the major crossing point at Soissons was held by a Franco-Polish garrison.
Oh. So you're still.
But
on
after
his
just
side.
a day's fighting, the garrison commander at Soissons tamely surrendered, allowing Blücher to escape.
See, and again,
But how frustrating it has to be for Napoleon. You know, you go on all over the country, north to south, south to north, and wherever you go, you want to fight, and they're like, oh, bye-bye. Burning the bridges.
yeah, but also
So you go south, and then on the south, they do the same. You look up the north, and they're already coming back.
But it's so strange for me because, the last couple of videos, maybe 10 or 15, we were getting like, maybe not frustrated, but we were surprised, like, where is his competence when he was fighting in Russia, and later, like, why is he making these decisions? And now it's like everything that was an issue before now suddenly is like they burn all the bridges, and Napoleon's like, oh, no problem, we'll build new bridges, 24 hours and they're built. And just in the last battle, we had people like they exploded the bridge because they thought
you can see, like, if you would have to say in one sentence, I would say that he is a great general, not so great emperor.
Yeah, possibly.
Like when he decides like bigger picture stuff, it does not turn out that well for him.
Perhaps.
But when it comes to just strict fighting, then he's a beast.
Yeah, and especially when he's pressed, I suppose.
Yeah.
Napoleon continued his pursuit across the Aisne, still hoping to cut off the army of Silesia. But at Craon, he encountered Russian troops in a strong defensive position. The Russians fought stubbornly. The French finally forced the enemy to withdraw, but only at the cost of 6,000 casualties, including many irreplaceable veterans from Napoleon's guard.
Yeah, we have like 5 of those.
Napoleon pushed on to Laon. But by now, Blücher had concentrated his forces, 98,000 troops in all, and outnumbered Napoleon 2-1. French attacks were repulsed, while Marmont's corps was caught off guard by a late Allied counterattack and routed. Napoleon was lucky to avoid a much heavier defeat. Blücher, usually aggressive to the point of recklessness, was unwell and had been told Napoleon's army was twice as big as it was, leading him to act with unusual caution.
One more thing. You know how we always said that you can kind of understand why Napoleon thought he was sent by the gods because there's so many odds in his favor? I feel like this is really the case because when in the last couple of episodes, or like in the Spain, did you hear that someone made a mistake like this, or like the weather was wrong and they won? And
yeah, but also he recently was destroyed because some soldier of his decided to blow up the bridge and trap 30,000 people.
I guess.
So it's not always in his favor are the gods.
I guess maybe sometimes the gods are sleeping.
Laon was a heavy blow to Napoleon. 6,500 casualties he could not afford. Undaunted, he fell back to Soissons, and after a brief moment to reorganize, he marched on the city of Reims, which had just fallen to Saint-Priest's Russian corps. In a whirlwind assault, Napoleon retook the city. Saint-Priest himself was mortally wounded, his corps routed. Meanwhile, in the south, Schwarzenberg had resumed his offensive as soon as he found out Napoleon had gone north. In heavy fighting, he'd driven Oudinot and MacDonald back from the River Aube. 5 days later, the Allies had recaptured Troyes, as MacDonald retreated behind the River Seine. Now, after 4 days to rest and reorganize his battered army, Napoleon was coming south once more. Schwarzenberg, emboldened by news of Napoleon's defeat at Laon, decided that this time he would stand and fight. Napoleon advanced on Arcis-sur-Aube, ignoring reports that the enemy was not retreating as he believed, but gathering for battle. As heavy fighting broke out, Napoleon still believed he faced only the enemy rearguard. It was a nasty surprise to discover that he faced the entire might of the army of Bohemia. 28,000 men against 80,000.
So
that's end. Has to be.
In desperate fighting, Napoleon personally rallied fleeing troops and exposed himself to enemy fire, having his horse killed under him by an exploding shell. But the odds were too great. At the end of the second day, Napoleon was forced to order the retreat.
But still, for 2 days they held out. But none reached me. Here's a little bit cuckoo.
Napoleon believed his army was now too weak to take on the Allies directly. So he decided to change strategy.
Still he fights.
He would march into the rear of the Allied armies, join up with some of his isolated garrisons, and cut the enemy's lines of communication, forcing them to abandon their advance on Paris. But the Allies, until now always one step behind Napoleon, had just received crucial information. Talleyrand, the most brilliant French diplomat of the age, and the most slippery. He'd served France's monarchy, the Revolution, then Napoleon, until in 1807 he fell out irrevocably with the Emperor over foreign policy. He now believed that Napoleon was dragging France into ruin, and worked behind the scenes to ensure his downfall. From Paris, he wrote to the Russian Emperor Alexander at Allied headquarters, informing him that in the capital, support for Napoleon was crumbling, and the city's defences had been completely neglected. He urged the Allies to march immediately on Paris, without allowing Napoleon to distract them. Talleyrand's information was confirmed when the Allies intercepted a report from Napoleon's chief of police, General Savary, meant for the Emperor. The treasury, arsenals and powder stores are empty. We are completely at the end of our resources. The population is discouraged and discontented, wishing peace at any price. As Napoleon advanced on Saint-Dizier, the Allies sent General Witzengerode and 10,000 cavalry to harass his army and to screen their own movements. Then began their march on Paris.
That's anticlimactic. Like, you'd expect that maybe they will defeat him in the battle and take Paris, but they were like, oh, he's not home, let's go.
It's anticlimactic, but it's also smart.
Yeah.
At Fère-Champenoise, they collided with Marmont and Mortier's corps, advancing to join Napoleon. An entire National Guard division, 5,000 men, was virtually wiped out as the marshals suffered a crushing defeat. Napoleon feared that the fall of Paris would be a fatal blow to his regime.
There's no regime!
His political authority and ability to wage war might not recover. So, when he received news of the Allies' movements, he tore up his plans and ordered a forced march back to Paris, intending to lead its defense in person.
Dude, it's lost. Like, it's really lost.
Napoleon's wife and son were evacuated from the capital, along with most of his ministers. His brother, Joseph, the ex-king of Spain, was in charge of the city's defences, but had done little. Paris was awash with rumours of treachery and defeat. Marmont and Mortier were able to reach Paris before the Allies, adding their troops to the garrison. It now totaled 37,000 men, including some hardened veterans of the Guard, but many more young conscripts,
It's not that easy to
while a third were part-time soldiers of the National Guard. The Allies had 120,000 seasoned troops outside the city, and given the urgency of taking Paris before Napoleon could intervene, their elite guards and grenadier divisions would lead the way. On the 30th of March, they began their assault from the north. Heavy fighting raged throughout the day. The city's defenders fought bravely, inflicting several thousand casualties on the advancing enemy.
Thousands.
But defeat was inevitable. That night, to save Paris from destruction, Marshal Marmont agreed to surrender the city, on condition the garrison was permitted to leave with its weapons. At the Hôtel des Invalides, the 71-year-old Marshal Serrurier oversaw the burning of 1,400 flags and standards captured from France's enemies, as well as Frederick the Great's sword and sash, so they would not fall into Allied hands. Napoleon was just 15 miles from Paris when he was informed of the city's surrender.
50 miles.
He sat with his head in his hands for 15 minutes. On the 31st of March 1814, France's enemies marched into Paris for the first time since the 100 Years' War. Parisian crowds cheered the three Allied monarchs, bringers of peace. Everyone in Paris was suddenly a royalist once more.
Yeah, like they said at any cost.
Above all, they cheered for Emperor Alexander of Russia, now hailed as Europe's saviour. Don Cossacks bivouacked on the Champs-Élysées. Allied troops generally behaved well. "35 miles away, Napoleon was at Fontainebleau with 36,000 men, all of them hungry and exhausted after their 100-mile forced march.
Yeah.
Nevertheless,
Such a strange feeling, and it's difficult to understand what you feel, because like we said at the beginning of this series, because it's from Napoleon's perspective, then you naturally cheer Napoleon, even now that we've watched his moral downfall as well. And he's definitely the evil guy in this scenario, and it's a happy ending that he's losing, but it's still difficult to see the empire that he built, and the someone that you learned to know so well, and everything just crashed.
But if people are against you, then what really is the empire?
Yeah,
is
it wasn't really an empire.
Is it just the color of the map?
Yeah, you're right.
If you have people in your own city in Paris that just executed their king, 30 years before, 20 years before,
and now they will take the monarchy, just so that you are not their leader anymore. Yeah.
Napoleon began planning an immediate advance on Paris. But for the first time, he faced unanimous opposition from his ministers and marshals, including Ney, MacDonald, Oudinot, and Berthier. They reminded him of his oath to act for the good of France.
Everyone.
He accused them of disloyalty, acting only to save themselves. They told him the war was lost, and he must abdicate in favour of his son if possible. On the 4th of April, Marshal Marmont surrendered his entire corps to the coalition, which was marched over to the enemy lines against the wishes of many of its officers and men. This was a devastating blow to Napoleon, and encouraged the Allies to reject his offer of a conditional abdication in favour of his son. 2 days later, he abdicated without conditions. The Allied powers, having proclaimed that the Emperor Napoleon is the only obstacle to the re-establishment of peace in Europe, the Emperor Napoleon, faithful to his oath, declares that he renounces for himself and his heirs the thrones of France and Italy, and that there is no personal sacrifice, including his life, that he is not ready to make in the interests of France.
I got chills.
Napoleon's abdication was formalized by the Treaty of Fontainebleau, by which he was allowed to keep the title of emperor, become sovereign of the small island of Elba, and retain a bodyguard of 400
so
men.
Then Waterloo comes. Your questions are
News
answered?
Came too late to prevent Wellington's attack on Toulouse, leading to a costly and pointless battle, with more than 7,000 casualties.
This is horrible, even more so than usual.
The night after his abdication, Napoleon tried to commit suicide, using the poison that had been made for him in Russia in case of capture. But it had lost its potency, and he survived.
Oh, but it has to scrub his stomach.
2 weeks later, Napoleon bade farewell to his old guard at Fontainebleau Palace and began his journey into exile.
Fascinating, the
Napoleonic Wars, which had raged on land and sea for 11 years, seemed finally at an end. The death toll is unknown, but historians estimate that 2 to 3 million lives were lost across Europe. Most soldiers died not in battle, but from disease.
Yeah, we knew that.
Many thousands were left maimed and disfigured. For most of this period, Napoleon was master of Europe, imposing treaties on humbled enemies, redrawing frontiers, overthrowing old regimes, and making new kings. He was the last figure in history to combine total political power with frontline military genius, in the mold of Alexander and Caesar.
Last person in history.
But it seemed Napoleon's reign was to end in abject military defeat. However, exile on Elba did not prove to Napoleon's taste. In less than 10 months, he would return to France to fight one last great campaign to reclaim his throne.
And that episode is just like 10 minutes long. We're waiting for the remake.
And
okay, it was probably the best episode that we've seen. And the competition was very steep.
Most touching, I mean.
Yes, but also because we've seen all the episodes before, right? But oh my god!
But that's what I will clarify now what I was thinking. I thought this episode, Battle of France, is after he returns from Elba, and that is his fight to reclaim his throne in France, and then to march on the Waterloo. So yeah, I did not know about this part of history. Like for some reason, I thought that he was forced
after Leipzig
to abdicate after Leipzig, and then he goes to Elba. I did not know that.
It's quite complicated.
There was fighting in France for some reason. I don't know why, but
it's quite complicated. I think you know the details. You still know quite a lot for a normal person.
I'm not a normal person. I'm a YouTuber with historical reactions. Yeah, so one episode left, and I'm glad that they are making the Waterloo again.
Me too, because like now, I'm
now
excited.
It's going to be a little bit anticlimactic.
Yeah, I know already, right?
I know you'll be disappointed, and I'm sorry for this blame epic history, but yeah, after
waiting so long, I don't want the final button to be 10 minutes long. How long is the episode?
Yeah, but. Yeah, 14.
14 minutes, come on. But they are making it in 4 parts. They are really going to make it, I think 4 parts, that's what I read. So they are really going to make it good for us.
But especially after those episodes that were so long, you know. You had 30-minute episodes, couple of them in a row, and now to end all of this, you have like oh, by the way, they thought they lost. Yeah. And that's the end.
Yeah, it's a bit like the ending was written very right. Like, you know that meme where there's the horse drawn and there's like a realistic horse at the part, and then there's this like.
I think now that I'm thinking of it, I think I remember the fact that he tried to commit suicide.
Really?
Because I think that Napoleon died on like a stomach cancer.
Oh.
Or something
Did
like
it?
that.
And is part of it that it was ruined by the poison?
Yeah, I think so. Like, because I remember that he was suffering from some problems with the stomach when he was on St. Helena. And I think I read that it was because of the poison that he took, and that was out of date.
Sounds so painful.
So maybe the cancer it's because of the poison.
This isn't very funny, but you know, like how there's often this question, like, if the poison goes out of date, does it get more poisonous or less poisonous? I guess we have the answer to that. Jesus. Horrible all around, but very interesting. And this episode really was, like we said, cartoonish at points, but it's just horrifying, the fact that 3 million people died because of his wish.
Yeah.
3 million people. Horrible.
And I would like to see what is the opinion of him in France, like, because it's always nice, we were so good. Like, even we Poles, we like celebrate that, Poland was once from sea to sea.
Yeah.
We were such a big country, but what exactly was the living for the average person?
Mm-hmm.
That's, I think, the important question, and that's like something that we should judge the leaders for. Leaders by, yeah. So I wonder, how was it, to live in those countries? Was it really better under the
I guess
French
at this
rule?
point, no, since they wanted
Yeah,
to.
but was it at any point?
Was it better at any point? I do wonder. But I suppose they had a lot of, like, at the point that he was growing, they had a lot of trade opportunities. They had a lot of wealth, perhaps.
Like for us, for the Poles, we sided with Napoleon because for us it was a better deal.
Yeah.
Because we did not have a country at all, and we were like forced into Germanization, Russification. They were forbidding us to speak our own language. They wanted us to accept the German culture, the Russian culture.
Yeah.
The Austrians not so much. They were more easy, more how do you say, like
laid back.
Yeah,
in a way.
But the Germans and the Russians were really, screwing us. And so for us, France and Napoleon, with the promise of making Poland again, creating a Poland again on the map, then yeah, that was a good cause for us. So we fought for him and with him, believing that it's going to be for the best. And for us, he really was, a good guy. But I wonder, how was it for like the Germans, the Netherlands, the Italians?
Yeah.
We know that in Spain, for example, we know that it was not,
for obvious reasons,
a good change.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they did not want him. It was not better for him.
Yeah, it was very brutal.
It was so good, so bad that the whole country
rebelled
mobilized
and took it in their hands to mobilize against him. Yeah.
I think it's just ego. Just ego was, he wanted to be master of Europe, and that's it.
He said from the beginning he wanted to be like Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
And in a way, I suppose he was, but not really.
Maybe he was, because we don't know if Alexander the Great. I think Alexander the Great also was not like the greatest guy when you lost against him. He was not like, oh, great, now you have a wonderful life.
He was brought up so differently, Alexander the Great. He was brought up with these philosophers. He was like brought up to be the leaders. It's a little bit different, I think. I don't know how.
Yeah, but I'm saying that even despite that, when you lost a war against Alexander the Great, then it's never like I don't think it ever happens that you lose a war and then your life becomes better.
Yeah, I suppose not.
Sometimes it's only good, when it stops like war and
like
you can finally have peace. So that's
like in this example.
Yeah. Okay, it's enough because it's already
almost an hour.
Yeah. Thank you for watching with us. The last episode will be on the channel soon. So
and then we will see
worry.
the Napoleon's marshals, and then we'll see other things.
And if you want, you can join our membership to watch some extra content. We have a lot of epic history. We finished the First World War. And
we are already thinking to do something else. But that will be in the future. Soon. Coming soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.